The Alchemy of Uprising, transforming dissent into lasting social change in an age where complacency masquerades as stability. The call to incite change rings louder than ever before. The modern activist is not merely a voice but a catalyst, a force that transforms frustration into action, disillusionment into revolution. This article explores how individuals can harness their discontent to ignite movements capable of reshaping societies, economies, and political landscapes without falling prey to burnout or co-optation by power structures. The Crucible of Consciousness. Understanding the psychology of activism. At the heart of every movement lies a psychological transformation, an awakening from passive observation to active engagement. This shift begins when individuals recognize patterns of injustice they've long ignored, often due to cognitive dissonance between personal values and societal norms. Cognitive dissonance creates mental discomfort that fuels motivation. When confronted with information contradicting existing beliefs, people experience emotional tension driving them toward resolution through action rather than denial. Studies show that exposure to systemic inequities increases empathy significantly. A Harvard study found participants who learned about wage disparities showed heightened neural activity in areas associated with moral judgment and decision-making. This neurological response explains why grassroots campaigns focusing on human stories tend to be most effective. They bypass intellectual resistance by appealing directly to our capacity for compassion. However, sustained activation requires moving beyond individual outrage to collective consciousness. Movements thrive when members develop shared narratives framing issues as common struggles rather than isolated incidents. Identity reinforcement. Activists often find validation in communities sharing similar experiences, strengthening commitment through mutual support networks. Moral licensing. Some activists may feel justified in taking risks because their cause aligns with deeply held ethical principles. Architects of altercation. Building effective movement structures. A well-organized movement isn't born from chaos, it's engineered through strategic design. Successful uprisings require careful structuring of leadership roles, communication channels, and resource distribution systems. Decentralized models prove particularly resilient against suppression efforts. By distributing authority across many nodes instead of concentrating it at the top, movements avoid single points of failure while maintaining flexibility. Consider the Arab Spring protests. While initially chaotic, successful outcomes emerged from local leaders organizing neighborhood committees focused on immediate needs like food security and medical care. Digital infrastructure plays a critical role in modern activism. Secure messaging apps allow coordination without relying on centralized platforms vulnerable to censorship or surveillance. Educational components are equally vital. Training programs covering nonviolent resistance tactics, legal protections, and media literacy help prevent mistakes that could derail progress. Resource pooling mechanisms ensure sustainability. Crowdfunding platforms enable decentralized funding streams, reducing dependence on external donors whose priorities might conflict with grassroots objectives. Ignition strategies. Sparking collective action. Creating momentum demands calculated ignition strategies that transform individual resolve into mass mobilization. These techniques range from symbolic acts of defiance to sophisticated campaign architectures designed for exponential growth. Symbolic actions serve dual purposes. They communicate core messages while demonstrating solidarity among participants. From sit-ins outside corporate headquarters to wearing colored clothing representing causes, these gestures create visual unity. Campaign architecture must include clear goals, timelines, and escalation paths. The civil rights marches in the United States followed structured progression, from local demonstrations to national events culminating in landmark legislation. Social media algorithms favor emotionally charged content, making viral potential crucial. Hashtag movements like hashtag Black Lives Matter demonstrate how digital tools can amplify physical protests exponentially. Timing is everything in strategic planning. Historical analysis shows that movements gain traction during periods of economic instability or political transition when institutions are less able to suppress dissent effectively. Risk assessment frameworks help organizers prepare for crackdowns. Mapping likely government responses allows pre-planning of alternative routes, safe houses, and emergency protocols. The double-edged sword, managing risks and rewards. While activism offers profound rewards, it also exposes participants to significant dangers. Understanding this balance helps maintain sustainable engagement without unnecessary sacrifice. Physical safety remains paramount. Activists must assess risks based on location-specific factors, urban versus rural settings, police presence levels, and historical treatment of protesters in particular regions. Prolonged involvement carries emotional tolls. Burnout manifests differently in each person. Some experience apathy, others become overly aggressive or cynical. Regular self-assessment is essential for maintaining psychological health. Legal repercussions vary widely depending on jurisdiction. Knowing one's rights under local laws enables informed participation without unintended consequences. Psychological resilience training equips activists to handle trauma. Techniques ranging from mindfulness exercises to peer support groups help process stress from confrontations and arrests. Balancing idealism with pragmatism prevents disillusionment. Recognizing that incremental gains matter alongside grand visions maintains motivation during slow progress phases. Amplification through media. Crafting narratives that resonate. Media strategy forms the backbone of any successful movement. How stories are framed determines public perception and ultimately influences policy decisions. Visual storytelling proves especially powerful. Documentary films, photo essays, and infographics translate complex issues into digestible formats accessible to broader audiences. Traditional media still holds sway despite digital alternatives. Establishing relationships with journalists ensures coverage reaches demographics otherwise inaccessible through online platforms alone. Digital natives require tailored approaches. Short-form video content optimized for TikTok or Instagram Reels resonates more strongly with younger generations accustomed to rapid consumption habits. Counter-narrative development prepares movements for opposition spin doctors. Preemptively crafting rebuttals to expected criticism strengthens overall messaging consistency. Transparency builds trust. Sharing behind-the-scenes footage and unfiltered interviews fosters authenticity that traditional news outlets often lack. Fueling the fire, sustaining momentum over time. Initial energy surges naturally fade unless deliberately maintained. Sustainable movements implement ongoing engagement strategies to preserve interest and participation levels. Regular updates keep supporters informed about progress made and challenges faced. Newsletters, podcasts, and live-streamed meetings provide continuous connection points. Community building initiatives strengthen bonds within activist circles. Shared meals, skill-sharing workshops, and cultural events foster camaraderie beyond protest activities. Adaptive programming ensures relevance over time. As circumstances evolve, movement objectives must flex accordingly while preserving core mission integrity. Intergenerational mentorship bridges knowledge gaps. Veteran activists pass down lessons learned through direct experience, enriching new participants' understanding. Global connections expand impact. Solidarity networks linking local movements worldwide create pressure multipliers that no single group could achieve independently. From sparks to supremacy, measuring impact and ensuring legacy. Assessing success goes beyond immediate victories. True measurement involves tracking long-term structural changes resulting from activist interventions. Quantifiable metrics include legislative changes, shifts in public opinion polls, and increased representation of marginalized groups in positions of influence. Qualitative indicators measure cultural transformations, how attitudes have shifted regarding previously accepted injustices, or whether marginalized voices now hold space in mainstream discourse. Legacy preservation requires intentional documentation. Oral histories, written records, and multimedia archives safeguard lessons learned for future generations. Evaluating setbacks objectively helps refine strategies. analyzing failed attempts provides invaluable data for improving future approaches without losing sight of overarching goals. Interdisciplinary collaboration enhances effectiveness. Partnering with researchers, artists, and technologists brings fresh perspectives that pure activism sometimes lacks. Conclusion: the journey from agitation to actual change demands both passion and precision. It requires transforming anger into purposeful action while navigating inevitable obstacles along the way. By strategically building awareness, organizing resources, mitigating risks, and sustaining engagement, activists lay foundations for enduring social transformation that outlasts temporary disruptions.